All right. It looks like things are starting to level off. So we'll just go ahead and dive into the content. Again, my name is Alan from Hireology. We have a really great content episode for you today, just talking all about mobile and texting best practices with Hireology. Whether you're a current customer or you may have heard of us in the market, these are some of the best practices that we really advocate. And these are the things that our power users really take to heart. And what we wanted to do was just pull together what we call a quick hit series to share some of these tactics with you. And so that's what the content is going to cover today. A couple of notes of housekeeping before we completely dive in. We are recording this session, so if you have any colleagues that might be interested and we're unfortunately unable to attend it, we will be sending out a link shortly after today's session, so you can pass that along to anybody who may be interested. And like I said, we have a lot of content to get through, and especially if you may not be familiar or using mobile in your hiring process today, we want to make sure that if you have any questions, that you're using the Q&A module within the Zoom interface. Ask your questions. We do have a couple of minutes at the end to just go over any of the thoughts, questions, feedback that you have based on today's session, and we will do our best to get through those. Otherwise, we can follow up via email to just make sure that we're getting those questions answered for you. So without further ado, like I said, my name is Alan. I'm our product marketing director here. I'm also joined by Ellie Fredland, who's one of our group product managers, overseeing a lot of our mobile and SMS-based products. So we're going to break up the content today to just really showcase some of the best practices that not only have we developed for our broader customer base, but we're seeing a lot of our power users really get a lot of value out of these features. So excited to dive on in. And really where I want to start the conversation today is just looking at the broader talent landscape. And so if you've joined one of our quick hit series before, you might have seen our Hireology 2022 applicant research study. So this was feedback that we've heard across applicants from our broader customer base. We did a survey and heard back responses from about 6,000 job applicants within the past 6 months. So this is really fresh economic data from people who've really recently, in a post-COVID environment, been through the job search process. And it has been really, really eye-opening in terms of how technology plays a role in what the job search looks like today. One of the things I wanted to start the conversation with is this pretty eye-opening statistic here. And so this is a question we've been asking that applicant pool since I've been here for the past 6 or 7 years of just how does a mobile phone or how does a smartphone, what percent of the mobile process does that play a role in? And this was the very first time for 2022 that we saw a majority of today's applicants, so 52% of job seekers, completed the entire hiring process. So from taking out their phone, looking for job openings, to managing the process, working with the recruiting team, getting the interview scheduled. This was the first time that across our broader customer base that happened mostly on a smartphone. So in years past, this has always been a really high number, but it's really, really interesting for me to see that a majority of today's job applicants are completely using their smartphone to manage the whole process on their end. And we anticipate this is just going to increase over time. So mobile is going to be really important. The other really interesting thing too, along with that, is 42% of those applicants have actually given up on a job application because it was too long, it was too tough, too cumbersome to complete on their phone. So we have half of today's applicants are managing the process completely on a smartphone, and there's an abandonment rate of over 40% because the application was just too tricky to fill out on their phone. So those are the two lenses that I want to frame the rest of today's session with. On mobile is here to stay. It's the majority of job activity on the applicant side. And what we want to do is just make this process easy so we get that 42% number down to something that's much more manageable, because we never want to lose a great candidate to a poor process. And so what I want to do is maybe dive into just some opportunities that we can talk about to improve that conversion number. Again, 42%, that is way too high. What can we do to really provide an outstanding candidate experience? And so we're going to go through a couple of things today. I want to start talking about mobile friendly job applications. So Our phone screens are a little bit smaller than our desktop computers. It's going to mean that we ask different questions, we format them differently to just make sure that those are really quick and simple to fill out for our applicants today. Second, we also want to just put our best foot forward in terms of how we present our company, talk about the job opportunities, talk about the company culture through a career site that looks just as great on a mobile phone as it does on desktop. And we have a couple examples for you. Following those two sessions, I'm going to hand it over to Ellie, who's going to talk about candidate texting. What are some of the best practices here? How can you get started with this to accelerate that hiring process? And then finally, being able to leverage mobile tools for your team. So it's not all about the applicants today. We have some customers who are really doing great things with mobile in terms of getting much quicker reaction times to our job applicants as a result of using the Hireology Mobile App. So excited to dig into all these sessions today. Again, this is going to be one of our quick hit series, so I'm going to just dive on in. And again, if there are any questions or thoughts, please use the Q&A function as part of Zoom, and we will answer as many as we can at the end. So we will kick things off talking about mobile-friendly job applications. And so we have a couple of best practices internally if you're a customer that we're working with to just get you set up on the right foot. And these are four of our main concepts that we really dive into. It doesn't matter if you're looking for a diesel technician, a zookeeper, a nurse practitioner, a sales executive, an administrator. All of these roles are going to be vastly different. They require different talent, but really when it comes to a job seeker, there's a few commonalities that we want you to practice. The first is just balancing the questions with time. What does this mean? This is really understanding that as much as I would love to find out every single minuscule piece of data about my job applicants in that application, if I ask 200 questions, I'm going to have a 0% completion rate. We actually see our conversion rates drop off after the 12 to 14 question mark. So kind of keep that in the back of your head. That's going to also be pretty challenging to fill out if it's not mobile optimized. And I'll give you a couple examples of what looks great versus what could be improved in just a couple of slides. So balance really the questions that you truthfully need to understand to move that person forward in the process versus trying to get their entire work history up front. Again, we want to get that 42% drop-off number down as low as possible. We don't want that really great candidate to turn away because they see a really long form and they don't have that time to fill it out. So that's what we want to talk about in terms of balancing questions with the time that your applicants take to fill that out. Second is thinking of the bigger process. So again, we want your hiring managers equipped with all of the information to make really great hires. We just don't want to ask all of those questions in the process. So think about all the things that you need to find out from those applicants on if they are a culture fit, if they have the skills and capabilities to fulfill the role. How can we ask those questions, just not in the initial application? So a lot of our customers also leverage what we call a pre-screen survey to understand, is this person equipped? Do they have the certifications? Is their schedule available for the shifts that I'm looking for? As well as just being really strategic about your interview questions and having those centralized as part of the process, regardless of who's interviewing. So really stretch that amount of information that you're looking to find in the application. We can get that in a couple of steps, and that's going to feel a lot better for the candidate as well. Third is leaning on technology to prioritize outreach. So there are tools built into our platform, and you may not be working with us today, and that's all right. There are other tools out there to just really help you mass message, whether that's over email. Our customers can also mass message over text, and we'll talk about what some of those best practices look like. But being able to use personalization tokens to reach out, or really intelligent tagging. So if you had a couple of candidates that made it to the final round, but you had a rock star that you went with, you may have a job opening in a month or two that you may want to go to those final round candidates and offer that up again. So being able to use intelligent tracking like tagging to make that outreach really simple, just so you're not starting from ground zero when it comes to that next opening. And then finally, be really crystal clear on next steps. Today's applicants, I don't think it's a surprise, have so many opportunities out there. And I think being really crystal clear in terms of what the process looks like, how it's going to be really streamlined, this is going to go a long way to making them feel really welcomed and just making them feel like the stars that they are in terms of what the process looks like. So those are really four of our North Star best practices that we really advocate with our customers in terms of how do you map out the application as well as the rest of your process. And what we're looking at now too, I mentioned that I wanted to show some examples of really best practices when it comes to mobile applications versus something that could probably use a little bit of help in terms of the usability, just in terms of filling out the information here. And so on the left, you can see this is what a Hireology application looks like in terms of I have a couple of really simple text fields to enter in my name, my preferred email address, my phone number. And as I scroll down, I don't have it on the screen here, but there's just a couple of really simple questions to validate that this person is somebody that I would be interested in phone screening and sending one of those pre-screen surveys to. And so this is something that we want to contrast to what we're looking at on the right-hand side, where if you lean in a little bit more heavily, you can see that this is asking, where did you go to school? What degree did you get? I have a drop down where there's a difference between a high school, a GED, an associate, a bachelor of applied sciences, of agricultural engineering, of arts. If you scroll down, there's about 25 different options that I would have to sift through to even just complete this one single field. So again, I don't know how important it is just in this initial screening to understand the difference between a Bachelor of Applied Sciences or a Bachelor of Arts. I don't know if it's that important. For a best practice, I would maybe skip that entirely. That's probably going to come out during one of your interview conversations. So again, this is a really, really specific example, but I think a really great thing that we do is we encourage our customers to apply for their own jobs. See how simple it is. How long does it fill out? How long does it take you to fill out that application? And so you can kind of compare and contrast and just also grade yourself on what your roles are looking like when you try to fill them out from your mobile phone. And so I also mentioned just in terms of the number of questions you're asking, where do we see drop off? So I also wanted to really quickly share this really interesting metric in terms of where do we see that drop off? So this is the number of questions that our customers leverage in their application fields. And so you can see that there is a little bit of a drop off if I have, up to 5 questions, but you can see the sweet spot. If I ask about 11 to 15 questions, I really see a drop off really fall off pretty significantly. So the sweet spot, I would say, is if you can ask about 12 questions or so, ideally less, for that initial application, you're going to see the best conversion. It's just going to stack from there. So really, you're going to see about an 85% drop off in terms of the people who finally finish and submit the application once you get to that 11 to 15 question mark. So you don't want to ask 20 questions. You don't want to ask 30 questions. Again, keep this simple and leverage some of those other conversational interviews, the pre-screen survey to make that great. And we can also take a look at mobile optimized career sites. So this is something that is really, really critical. We know that the interview is such an important step to having your applicants make a really great first impression with you. I would also argue that your career site is making a really great first impression with them. So you really want to showcase your brand and put that on a silver platter, really lead with your best foot forward. There's a couple of other things you can do. One is to make the navigation really, really simple and easy. You don't want somebody who may also have never visited your site before to have to dig around and find that career site link. We always encourage you to put that in your main navigation to make it easy. But then on the career site itself, make sure that everything is really very nicely organized. You don't have 20 different pages. You're not burying your open positions. Make it front and center. Be proud of your company culture. Showcase pictures of your team. Make it really, really simple for that applicant to close their eyes and imagine themselves on your team. You can also make it really simple to connect to your process. So if you have a career site, do you then make that person send a cold email to your HR team, or do you have that connected to your hiring process? With Hireology, we make sure that this is really, really seamless, so that if I see a role on a Hireology career site, I get really excited. Within 10 seconds, I can apply to that job and instantly kick off the process. So make sure that your systems are also really connected. That's going to be really critical to getting people through the process. And then finally, measure results. So make sure you're taking a look at the metrics, understand how many applicants is your career site delivering, but then also go a step further, how many of them are converting into hires? And then put the career site up against some of your other channels. You might have a referral program. You might be purchasing sponsored ads, relying on other job boards from an organic feed perspective. Don't just take a look at the amount of applicants delivered by each of these channels, but also hone in on how many hires are you getting from them as well. I think the results may surprise you. So again, some really quick tips and pieces of advice for your career site. Ultimately, you want this to just make a really great impression with your applicants. And then this is a look at just some more best practices. Again, I want to be able to really quickly navigate. I don't have to pinch to zoom in to see some of the benefits. I can see that there's a really content-rich design, so I can see photos. And then, of course, we want to make it really simple to see the new positions as well. So just a couple of screenshots from some of our customers who are working with us on their career site and driving really great results. So I took us through the application in just some quick best practices that you can put in place today for your own career site. I'm going to actually hand things over to Ellie, who's our on the product side of things, is our group product manager, to talk a little bit more about text messaging and how that can play into the hiring process. So Ellie, please take it away.
Thanks much, Alan. Yeah, so once you're able to get those applicants who have applied engaged with your process, it's really important that you communicate them in both a timely and efficient manner, but then also meeting them where they're at in terms of their mobile device. So how can you easily make that possible? And texting is critical for that. So if we think about how you use email on your phone, it can be very frustrating, right? There's apps, and if you're like me, sometimes that inbox is a little bit fuller than you want it to be. And so we wanted to ask our candidates, are they interested in texting? And the vast majority of them from the survey that we did are interested in it. And the critical piece with this is that they're interested as long as it makes that process move faster. We also looked at this by age group, and even when we broke it down in that way, the older generations that were applying and part of the survey were really open to texting, and it's become a universal way and expectation for job seekers. So what are some of the best practices to follow when you're texting with Hireology? So first, using the preferred channels, so being able to use texting to communicate with them. Using templates is going to help speed up those repeated requests. And then within the templates or within individualized messages, Hireology makes it really easy to use personalization. So if you're using a mass outreach for a job, making sure that you're filling it in with the personalization to include their name, the job that they've applied for, and that type of information. And then lastly, from a best practice perspective, if you're texting in app, that's going to hide the personal information for the hiring manager or recruiter, and instead use a number that can be used for communication, but doesn't give access to the job seeker to personal information. So the next slide here allows us to take a look at what that experience is like for the hiring manager as well as the candidate. So you can see within the Hireology app, you can still see the conversation and send text messages and include templates really easily. And then from the candidate's perspective, it is a standard text message. And so in addition to being able to communicate really quickly with candidates using text message, the Hireology mobile app really enables your hiring team to benefit from that mobile experience as well. The Hireology mobile app has some best practices for using it as well, and some key functionality. So taking your hiring process anywhere, especially in a post-COVID world where we're all working from everywhere, it's important to be able to run that hiring process on the go. The mobile app has notifications so that you can be notified both when you get messages from job seekers as well as when job seekers apply, allowing you to get back to them as quickly as possible. Messaging and calling applicants is easy from the app. And what our customers have found is that we're able to move candidates through the process twice as fast when we use the mobile app instead of just using the desktop app alone. So the next screen here shows a little bit of some of that functionality within the app. Again, you can move the hiring process forward, actually hitting that hire button and letting someone know that they've been hired in app. You can manage messages, both email and text messages in app. And again, moving that text message onto the mobile device is really helpful for those engaged in the hiring process. And then you can also advance applicants within the mobile app, let them know that they've been advanced in the process. And also one of the key features that's available in the mobile app is some of the delayed rejection functionality. So for those candidates that aren't right, as you're reviewing them really rapidly, you can go ahead and make that decision, but delay letting them know so that it's a little bit more appropriate hiring process and timing. So I can tell you all about why it's fantastic, but I think it's better to hear about our customers' experiences. So AFP management really did a push to use texting as part of their hiring process, as well as the Hireology mobile tools. And you can see they found that it was 3 days faster when they're able to use texting to message their job seekers instead of just email. And with 10,000 applicants, that's a ton of time saved. So they were able to get their time to hire down by 11 days. And then the quote here from a customer: using the mobile app to review applicants throughout the day and reach out via text has allowed them to cut down their time to contact applicants and therefore the overall hiring process. So in general, the mobile experience is not only beneficial for job seekers, applicants, and candidates, but also for those on the hiring team. So Alan, I think that wraps up what we have. Are there any questions today?
We do have one question actually, and this is from Travis. He had asked that though the app is on his phone and his iPad, it only shows a couple of his locations, not all of the locations. If you are sending a text through the app, does the recipient receive the message that shows their phone number? He said a lot of their managers don't want to give out their personal phone numbers.
Yeah, great questions. So I'll start with the second question first, actually. So if you're using texting functionality from the mobile app, it's not using your personal phone number. So we route all of that through numbers that Hireology owns. And so that's a great way to make sure that personal information is not actually communicated to the job seeker. As far as the locations, all of the locations should be available in the mobile app. So I would just reach out to our CS team to look into that individual case, but all of the locations that you have access to via web are available for you in the mobile app as well.
Yeah, Ellie, the one thing I would add to that too is the great thing I think about the fact that we use a Hireology number. And so this is similar if you've ever, ordered food from Grubhub or requested a Lyft or an Uber. They have those service numbers that will text you the updated status. We use a very similar technology here. What that also means though, Travis, is that if you happen to take some vacation time and you have a couple of applicants going through the process, everything will be centralized in the platform. And so if you have to pull in another member of the hiring team to, respond to an applicant question or get one of those interviews scheduled, because you're using a Hireology number and, not just a personal number of somebody on your team, you can still see the correspondence, but then continue to move that person through the process. Things will not be completely on pause if you, would like some time off, which is always nice.
Absolutely.
Great. Carly, did we have any other questions or are we just finishing right on time here, I guess?
Yep, it looks like we do not have any more questions, but if you all have any questions or anything that you would like to know more about, feel free to email info@hireology.com.
Sounds perfect. Well, thank you again. I know things have been really, really busy, especially with the start of the quarter. So we appreciate everybody for taking the time to join Ellie and I. Again, we love sharing these best practices. So as Carly said, please email us at that email address. I'm copied on that. And so if you have any questions or feedback, even on things that you would love for us to dive into in future sessions, we love this format of, a 25-minute, get together where we sort of talk about best practices. We want to keep doing these. Share all of your feedback. Otherwise, we will see you in a few weeks for our next Quick Hit series. Thanks again.